All right, welcome to another episode of the IT Woodworker. I am Chris Kousoulas, your host, and I'm graced with the presence of a couple of gentlemen who've been a part of this before. Lee Grant and Nick Santilli. Thanks for joining me again today, gentlemen. Looking forward to another conversation around AI. So before we get started here, we are in the thralls of summer, and Lee and I are in the northern part of the country, and Nick is in the southern part of the country, and he's nice and cool and we're nice and hot. So it's not fair at so many different levels. I just want to start with
Hey,
that.
everything in context, right? Nice and cool is 87 degrees in relatively lower humidity than we've had for
How
so
long
yeah.
of a walk slash drive is it to the beach, Nick?
Yeah, there's the context.
It's about 30-minute drive to the beach, just far
Yeah.
enough that I don't have to worry about flooding when
Yeah,
Idalia is blowing
yeah.
by. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice. Well, this is our third go round of talking about a little bit of little AI and machine learning here, and when we started out, there was some trepidation, I'll call it, from Lee's point of view, the first meeting. And then the second one, I think your quote was kind of around you asked AI a couple of questions and they came back with two of the three wrong. So you were feeling a little bit better about yourself. So where are we at today, gentlemen? I got a couple notes here, but Nick, Lee, I want to hear from you guys a little bit.
Yeah,
I have more data. Let me riff on his. It got two out of the three wrong.
Okay.
I would say that now since I hit it every time I want to ask Google something, I make sure I hit Chat GPT. It's roughly 500, roughly 50% right, wrong.
Now, how does that compare to Google?
Google, I get the answer 90% plus.
Okay.
really.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I guess I've my reaction there is when I was playing with Google, I was more interested in the maturity of the language it produced than specifically the correctness of the answers. And when I was playing with both,
Yeah.
Google's maturity
Yeah.
was way down, and ChatGPT was way up. But
You
again,
you misunderstand. When I say Google, I mean traditional type in a Google search.
oh, sorry, I
Not
thought
the
you were
Google.
saying
Not
Bard.
I'm nowhere near the Google AI.
Got it. Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I'm a
I take it back.
Microsoft guy. I'll ride with the Microsoft one, but
Yeah.
ride with some side eye at it.
Well, so I have something, based on kind of correctness and accuracy and things like that. There's been a handful of things, written in recent weeks about the dumbing down of generative AI and some of those things. And so I'm sorry, I took a note here. What was it? Um, from March to June, it was estimated that the accuracy of responses plummeted from like 97% down to like single digit percentages. Now, this was, I don't remember where I read that. Don't quote me, but so I've been reading a little bit about that. What are the reasons? Why not? Who did this? One theory was, well, we started seeing the end of the school year, and in kids and students trying to get their schoolwork done stopped using it. Maybe it was getting less inputs. Okay, maybe, I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but it almost made me wonder if there's some, if the dumbing down is a result of people dumbness from its users,
Yeah.
from the content base that's create or providing all of the inputs. Is that intentional or is it unintentional? Because here was an interesting thing. Again, I security minded. I look at everything kind of that way. What if there's an attempt to see, hey, how can we thwart AI? Can we actively subvert the level of efficacy by there are thumbs down, and when some of those responses come, you can tell it, yeah, this was a good response, or no, this wasn't so good. Is this the first approach to, or the first attempt rather, to say, hey, there's a way to kind of hack generative AI, and we can do it by telling it the wrong stuff or feeding it the wrong stuff. Anyway, just it kind of got me thinking about how that could, then be thrown off in those models, could be influenced negatively and make them less useful potentially.
Well, my view on that would be it would require a very united effort to do that, because
Agreed.
you've got let's say the average person looks at that and goes, cool, thumb up. Somebody else gets something, no, thumbs down. But those thumbs down it has to be probably computer generated. I'm just going to funnel a bunch of thumbs down to everything.
Right.
I mean, and it would require billions of thumbs
a
down,
massive scale,
like
but
but it would require, and then now we're talking, someone's going to pay for that, and could somebody, so let's put it this way: if you have the ability to divert computing power to your will, are you going to do it to affect AI, or are you going to do it to mine Bitcoin? I mean, that's kind of my view. And again, so you look at things from security, which is good. I look at things from the developer, from data, kind of the data engineer view. And you're correct, but you're correct in a way that you don't know that you're correct. This thing funnels through public GitHub repositories. Now there was the old George Carlin routine. Think about how dumb the average person is, and realize that that half of them are dumber. Think about what kind of bad code you've seen in your career, and realize that how bad is the average software developer. Because Microsoft is kind of thrown open the gate, saying, well, everybody can be a developer now. And I think that's great. I think learning how to code is a great thing. But on the whole, most of them are pretty bad. And so when I ask for something, that's what it's trolling through.
Yeah, the bell curve, right? Yeah. The majority of
And again, I think it's being dumbed down on purpose by the people that are holding the strings, because of things like, I don't know if this happened since our last meeting, but the lawyer that submitted the case law that he had Chat GPT write for him. I mean, these are all things that, this is scary, because that's at a societal level.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if something got through the court system and landed in the Supreme Court, and somebody didn't check something? Just, somebody I'm sure somebody's checked that. I'm not going to check it. And before you know it, you have a decision that maybe could affect society. Now, that's the worst case scenario, but it can happen.
So if AI is supposed to mimic human intelligence and human thinking, then by you saying that it's dumbing it down, I'd say it's mimicking human intelligence. And I mean, look at Facebook or LinkedIn, and look at all the misquotes that, well, more Facebook and those kind of social medias, but look at all the people who hang on to some things that if you just Google it, it's like that's not true. That's not even accurate. I mean, you could go and find 10 out of 12 things that are like that. So maybe it's doing exactly what it's been designed to do.
So maybe we will be able to overthrow our future AI overlords if we just dumb it down enough.
Just keep letting people use it, man.
I often think there was an episode of the original Star Trek, William Shatner edition. I think it was called The Ultimate Computer, where this guy invented a computer that could do everything a human could do, and it was perfect. And then it decided that it suddenly decided it didn't need humans around anymore, and just started blasting other Federation ships. It was plugged into the Enterprise. And I'm pretty sure that it's been a while since I've seen it, but Captain Kirk got it to confuse itself by saying if you're by making a statement like "I always lie," and the thing got into like some kind of a weird little loop where it ended up wanting to basically self-destruct, and they were able to get it unplugged. But I think that we can reach a point where ultimately all I care about is I want a human to make a decision. The machine can give me all the input I want, but I want to be able to make my decision. I want to, whether it's governmental, whether it's financial, whether, whatever, I want the person to be able to control it. We're recording this on the 5th of September. This morning, United Airlines had a ground stop because of technology. That's all they said, technology. I get worried if we ever have our air traffic control controlled by an AI. But if suddenly you have trouble finding people that want to be air traffic controlmen, what are you going to do? You're going to get a machine to, and the thing is eventually, if the machine gets good enough that it can actually replace a human, and then somebody makes the poor decision, well, then we don't need humans. That's where we've crossed the Rubicon, and we're screwed, for lack of a better term.
So I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot a little bit on that, because you're treading into a little bit of another piece of this that I wanted to talk about, which was creating governance around AI, and the context being how we all use it. And let's not boil the ocean. Let's not create bigger government necessarily, but within business, right? Having a person in the organization whose role it is to define how a business will use AI, which parts of the business are allowed to use it, in what capacities they use it. Like it should be utilized in some places, right? It's a force multiplier, and it can speed a lot of the things that we're doing. But how do you trust but verify, or distrust and always verify, right? Like maybe it's a zero trust approach. Again, take a security term, like, hey, this seems like it's helpful, but we better make sure everything that's spitting out, going back to the Supreme Court, or the attorney rather, that used the, let's not assume it's giving us everything accurately, but you need somebody in an organization to put guardrails around it. What can you share? What can you pump into Chat GPT and risk that it's becoming public domain? I mean, not to sidebar us, but Zoom, which we're all talking across right now, popped up in the news not too long ago because their end user license agreement said content being used and shared and recorded on Zoom calls may be used to program generative AI models. And some people were like, oh my gosh, they can't, well, it didn't. In fact, I take that back. It didn't specifically say generative AI. It referenced AI. And frankly, a lot of the industry collaboration tools have been using AI for a while to filter out Fido barking at the Amazon person in the background, or loud noises. They've been using AI and algorithms to learn and to filter out noises. Well, maybe that's all Zoom's doing it for. Maybe it's not, right? We can take the pessimistic or the optimistic approach there, but going back to my earlier comment, and then I'll take a breath and let you guys share some comments. Businesses need to start having somebody who says, here's how we're going to use this, and here's how we're not. And we need to be very vigilant about what we're sharing with these models and how we're utilizing them, so that we're not putting false stuff out there, so that we're not sharing our IP out into the world and making it public. And then I've got a comment on that later as well.
So let's let's throw a bet out there, gentlemen. When are we going to see our first chief AI officer?
I'm
Before the
sure
end of
they're
the year?
I'm sure they're already there.
They're already
I was
there.
going to say they're
I'm sure
already
Amazon and Microsoft and
Chief
Google
AI
are.
officers. So when's it going to become prevalent and get pushed down to majority of businesses?
2 years on average, I would
2
say.
years. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
faster where an organization gets bit because they used it
Yeah.
improperly and had to pay the price.
Sure.
Well, I'm gonna take what Nick said. I'm gonna take what you just asked, and I'm gonna kind of
Pump it into Chat GPT and
I'm
see what it says.
I'm gonna shift it a little bit.
Okay.
So let's take care of yours first. I think that the chief AI officer should be called the chief ethics officer,
I like
because
True.
AI without ethics is bad. I mean, everything without ethics is bad, but AI especially has the power to really be used for bad. Now, back to what Nick was talking about Zoom and kind of the controversies around what's being used.
Before you go down that path, real
Mhm.
quick, I just Googled chief AI officer, and on the front page, the earliest reference I see to it is March 1st of this year. So
Already.
there you go, Chris.
So,
Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Lee.
so, but so I think the concept that stuff we say day to day, stuff we do day to day on a computer, or no matter where we are in our house, if we have Amazon, Google, or Apple devices, that ship sailed.
For sure.
Amazon claims that unless you use the trigger word, it doesn't listen, but we all know that's not true. You have to be listening for the trigger word, ergo you're listening
Right.
all the time.
Just
I did had the incident that happened to the Microsoft engineer in Washington State happened before our last call, where he had his house was a smart house, all enabled by the Amazon device's name that I can't say or she'll wake up. Apparently, he has a Ring doorbell camera, which I think is also an Amazon device, and a Amazon delivery guy dropped off a package, and he heard something. Now, he dropped off a package while wearing earphones, and he allegedly heard it say something that was offensive, the Ring camera, which mostly the Ring camera says, "Hi, can I help you?" Which is what the Microsoft engineer said. Well, Amazon basically suspended his ability to use his smartphone, his smart home, for a week. So anything that was hooked to Amazon stopped working. Now, that, first off, that gets into all kinds of weird things that we probably should talk about in a future thing of, if I buy something, is it mine or not? I mean,
What's the EULA say?
Is this device mine or not? If I buy a movie from Apple TV to stream on my iPad when I'm traveling, I don't have the physical media, but do I own that chunk of digital bits? And
you
I
own
claim
the plastic and the capacitors, not the capacitors,
yeah.
but you don't own the code that's running in the cloud that makes it do all the stuff it does, right?
I mean, so that becomes down. So, is there a point where I try to watch something on a film on my next trip, or watch something that's been downloaded, and it comes up and says, "No, I'm sorry, you have to rebuy this. You've had it for 5 years. You need to I mean, no one reads the EULAs. I certainly don't.
Right.
Is there something in there that basically says you get to watch a movie a certain number of times, and then we're going to redo it? BMW, starting with 2020, 2021 model year, if you have heated seats and you sell your car and the title transfers, they find out, they come back at the people who bought the car saying, "Hey, you got to pony up $100 to get your heated seats back."
Yeah, it's a feature.
They can shut it off. I mean, my car is hooked up to something, because it lets me know when it's time. It's you need to get your brakes done. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's annoying, but someone's talking to it.
Yeah,
sure.
So I mean, so do I actually own my car?
Read the EULA.
I mean, I mean, I'll go back to what I said probably from our first thing. Computers are amazing. They're beautiful. They're wonderful. Technology is great. They're a help to humanity, and they're going to end up killing us one day.
Well, I mean, Tesla, and I know this is not where our conversation is meant to be, but when Tesla came out with the Model S, they basically introduced a computer with wheels, a fully
Mm-hmm.
connected computer with wheels, and you know, theoretically, and maybe this is a policy, and I'm just not aware. I don't own a Tesla. Um, if you're not making your payments on time, can they
Yeah, yeah,
cut your
they have.
car off?
They have the car wake up and drive itself to the local dealer.
There you
There
go.
have been cases of that, and yeah, if you're not making your payment, I mean, it means you don't have to go hire a repossessor who may get shot. Um, but you know, again, I want to know how many people are driving Teslas thinking that this thing will automatically drive fine, and they're on their phone and not paying attention.
Yeah.
Are they more dangerous than somebody in a regular car on their phone not paying attention? I claim that the Tesla can lure you, lull you into a false sense of
False
security.
sense of security. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
I'm going to twist this conversation just a little bit here, guys.
Yeah.
So, and I like your input on it. So I started this podcast in about September of last year, so about a year ago. And one of the things that we had talked about, you guys weren't on it for the show, was that the there's not enough, and it was specifically at that time, people out there to fill all the cybersecurity roles that were open. Now I know that's an IT thing in general, but what we've been looking at, and everybody wanted 2 years experience, entry level, but you had to have 2 years experience, and there's more cybersecurity roles and there were people to fill them. Well, now what I'm seeing is they're saying roles that AI will take over. A lot of them are cybersecurity roles. They're talking about breach detection, monitoring, threat intelligence, incident response.
Yeah.
So, and Nick, you're way more into this than I am, but have you noticed that?
Um, I guess I haven't been in a hiring role in a year, so I'm a little fuzzy on most recent months. But what I will say is the tool sets. If you think about cybersecurity and defenses, defensive posture in the security context, you're constantly trying to evaluate hundreds and thousands of lines of events of things that are happening on every device connected to a network, connected to a cloud, connected to an application, login attempts. And historically, one of the biggest challenges was hiring people who didn't mind working the graveyard shift to look at lines and lines and lines and lines of events and try to find something meaningful in there. And I don't know about you, but I don't generally do my best work at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
When there's just numerous, countless lines of stuff going on, chances are I'm going to miss some things. And so, the algorithms and machine learning that have been going into automating some of that stuff has been around for some years now. And now we're seeing that jump forward and utilizing these AI tool sets to further enhance those. And at the end, I think the ones that are doing it well are then escalating. The AI is escalating those few events over thousands and thousands of lines to a human to say, hey, here's some things that seem to meet the criteria that we're looking for. And then the human who, hopefully does this stuff and knows what they're looking at determines, nope, false positive, or this is a real alert and we need to do it. So yeah, I mean, in that case, I think you're going to see a lot more of those lower end entry level jobs, regardless of the industry, right? Whether that's security or not. Where you can let the AI just kind of stare at a screen for days upon days upon days and just look at mind numbing information and make sense of it. That's gonna help. But it's shifting, right? That means we're gonna need people who know what they're looking at higher up the chain now to validate what the AI
So
is.
that person at 3 o'clock is because AI found an anomaly, and then it used some sort of automation to alert that person. But it made me start thinking about that when Lee was saying, well, they're not going to need repossession people anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I never, that one has not crossed my mind. Like a year ago, these, you know, breach monitoring, threat intelligence, those things had never really crossed my mind. Yes, it might have crossed your minds, but you know, what other things like that are going to get replaced? I never would have thought of a repossession person, but if that car can drive itself away, and if you got it's in the garage and you're hooked up and it's a smart garage door, so it just opens it and you
Right.
go, what more is going to be done like that?
You name it. Everything's got a connection anymore.
Yeah.
You know, if you have my refrigerator is 25 years old, so I'm searching for it when that day comes. I was in Best Buy and I saw I think it was Samsung or LG, not sure the brand, but it was connected to the Amazon device. You know, refrigerator now with that name, Alexa. And I saw that and
I missed something. Can you say it
she
again?
even heard. Unbelievable.
You didn't say it soft enough.
Unbelievable. But if your refrigerator is hooked up, I'll give you the case of the Microsoft engineer who had a smart house shut down. Are they going to turn off your refrigerator for something that was a non-issue?
Yeah.
If we are giving power to a corporation that has never met us, that doesn't know us, and they're making decisions based on whatever ephemeral thing is going on in the air as they listen to you. Maybe somebody listens to me and they're not a Buffalo Bills fan, they're a Jets fan, and they decide, well, this guy's a Bills fan, I'm gonna do some stuff to him. Who do you call? Have you ever tried to call Amazon when they say you delivered something and you didn't get it delivered? It's not fun.
That's where that chief ethics officer is really going to be a critical part of any organization moving forward.
These things, I don't think everything's going to be replaced by AI because it's just not possible. But if we replace the drudgery, so what Nick was talking about, you know, I'm sitting there at 3 a.m. and I'm just looking at lines of code from a you know a logging messages. Yeah, that's something that a machine can do really well. It can go through it, it can find something, and it can alert somebody about it. That's ideal, and that stuff's been going on. Azure has a bunch of things built into it that will search for potential issues. But you know, I want us to think long and hard before we start introducing things that can go off the rails. What happens if there's some bad code in Tesla and they decide everybody hasn't made their payment? And suddenly you have Teslas waking up around the country. And you know, the dealer shows up one morning and he's got 50 Teslas sitting there saying, I've been repossessed. That's, you know, that, and you know, it's a code, it's bad code, and we see bad code every day.
So speaking of bad code and the fact that, you know, this is out there, right? These models, the code that runs these models is out there. And so, you know, entities are building the generative AI into their own applications or their own enterprises, putting their own tweaks on it. You know, so while OpenAI kind of started the wave, so to speak, it's quickly diversifying and disseminating out into lots of areas. Well, if you haven't heard of Worm GPT, it's basically the hackers version or the bad actors version of Chat GPT with the guardrails taken off. So if you ask Chat GPT to write you malicious code, there have been guardrails built in so that it won't do some of those things, right? There's a chief
Mhm.
ethics officer someplace
Yeah.
at OpenAI trying to, well, Worm GPT is out there, and it's out in the world for all of the bad folks to take advantage of and say, hey, here's what I need. I need a phishing attack. I need a ransomware or malware or bot to do X. And Worm GPT is gonna oblige them.
But
So
remember, you can do that with Chat GTP. We mentioned this on a previous call that Malwarebytes came out with this article where they said it
yeah.
can write ransomware. It's just bad at it. Because
Well,
you can't
and
say
I
write
think
me ransomware. You have to be smart about it and say, can you write me C++ code that enumerates my directories.
yeah.
Now write me C++ code that will encrypt all the files on my hard drive. No, just encrypt one file, and then I enumerate all the files and feed it individually. Now you have a ransomware.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I think that there are certain things that Chat GTP should not be allowed to do from the owners, whether that's OpenAI, Microsoft, whoever is the current holder of the strings. If this question comes in, we don't answer anything around this. So if we say no and then somebody comes at it from a different direction, we still say no. It's a generative AI. It should be smart enough to do that.
Sure. Well, we've come a long way in our 3 episodes, gentlemen. I can't wait to see what we're talking about in 3 more. But I'm going to be applying for some ethics jobs in 3 months. I think I'm going to give that a shot.
Well, I hope we're here in 3 months.
Oh, we will be. We will
Yeah.
be, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, this has been another exciting episode for me. I always appreciate talking with you guys about this, and I'm going to get something on our calendar for 3 months out so that we can do this all over again and look for all the exciting changes that'll happen by then.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, guys. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Have a great afternoon.
Bye,
You
guys.
too. See ya.
See ya.